All right, let's talk about risk management. Now, I know that sounds like some big, stuffy corporate term, but we're going to flip it. We're going to turn it into a personal tool, something powerful you can use for your own career. Because if you've ever felt that little bit of anxiety about the future, the threats to your job, you've probably asked yourself, okay, so now what? Well, this framework, this is the now what.
So, you've already done the hard part, right? You've identified those threats. You've looked at your career and thought, that could be a problem down the line. But here's the thing. A list of threats is really just a list of worries. It doesn't actually do anything. Risk management is what comes next. It's the action plan. It's all about answering that one crucial question. So, what are you going to do about them?
To answer that, we first need to get clear on what we're protecting. This is all about moving from that vague, abstract worry zone into the world of concrete, solvable problems. And the key is to start thinking of yourself less like an employee and more like the CEO of your own career. And every good CEO has a vision and a mission, right? For you, your vision is a long game. It's about growth, for sure, but also stability, and my favorite word, optionality. That's the freedom to choose what's next, instead of having it chosen for you. And your mission? Well, that's how you get there. It's building real skills, rock-solid credibility, and the resilience to handle whatever comes your way. This is what's at stake. These are the assets we need to protect.
Okay, now for the core of the framework. Assessing your personal risks. This is the really powerful part. This is where we take those fuzzy, late-night worries and we sharpen them into something concrete, something we can actually manage.
So, how does this actually work in practice? Let me give you a few examples. You know that nagging feeling? What if my skills become outdated? We're going to stop calling it that. We're going to give it a proper name. The risk of skill obsolescence. Or how about this one? I'm totally reliant on this one paycheck. That's not just a worry. That is the risk of financial dependency. And that thought, man, all my experience is in this one little niche, that's career concentration risk. See the difference? We've moved from a vague feeling to a clear problem statement we can actually get our hands around.
Now, once we've named the risk, we have to size it up. And we do that using two simple but incredibly useful lenses, likelihood and impact. Let's take our examples. Skill obsolescence? In the world we live in, the likelihood of that is pretty darn high. And the impact? Also high. It could make you irrelevant. Now, what about financial dependency? The likelihood of you losing your job tomorrow might be low, hopefully. But the impact, if you do, it's catastrophic, right? Total disaster. And career concentration? That's a different beast. It's slow-moving, so maybe a medium likelihood. But the long-term impact on your career options? That's huge. So once you've identified and assessed the risks, you get to do the fun part. You get to shift from playing defense to playing offense. It's time to design your strategic response and actually take control of where you're headed. And this is where it all comes together. Every single risk gets a specific dedicated response. So to manage skill obsolescence, you don't just take some random course online. No, you proactively invest in adjacent skills, things that build on what you already know. To mitigate financial dependency, the response is clear: build buffers. That means an emergency fund, maybe exploring a side income. And to counter career concentration, you have to be intentional about expanding your exposure, seeking out new projects, and growing your network. These aren't just reactions, they're strategic moves. And you know what? This way of thinking isn't just some personal productivity hack. It is exactly how the most successful companies on the planet operate. Let's take a quick look at a classic example: Netflix. Okay, so picture it. It's the early 2000s. Netflix's entire business model is those little red envelopes with DVDs inside. But they saw something coming on the horizon: the internet. They knew without a doubt that the physical DVD was going to become obsolete. This was a massive existential threat to their entire company. So what did they do? They ran the assessment, just like we did for our careers. The likelihood of the DVD model dying? It wasn't a matter of if, it was when. So definitely a high likelihood. And the impact if they just sat back and did nothing? Catastrophic. Game over. The end of Netflix. And because that assessment was so crystal clear, the response had to be just as decisive. They didn't just try to mail DVDs a little faster. No way. They made an aggressive, all-in pivot to a totally new business: streaming. They invested a ton of money, even when it hurt their existing profits, because they knew it was the only possible way to manage a risk that huge. So, let's bring this all back to you. The goal here isn't to do this once and then forget about it. This is a repeatable thinking tool, a mental loop that you can run all of your major career decisions through. It really boils down to a simple three-step loop. First, identify and translate.
You turn those abstract worries into concrete risks. Second, assess. You analyze each one by its likelihood and its impact. And third, respond. You design a smart, strategic action to manage it. Identify, assess, respond. That's the loop. You can run it every year or anytime you feel like you're at a professional crossroads.
And here's the key takeaway, the most important thing to remember about all of this. The point of this exercise is not to create a risk-free career. That's impossible. A career with zero risk is probably a career with zero growth. The whole point is to take those unknown, lurking threats out of the shadows. You are making risk visible, and by making it visible, you are making it controllable.
So, I'll leave you with this one final question. Don't worry about trying to solve everything at once. Just looking at your own career right now. What is the one risk you will take the first step to manage, starting this week?